Trust has been eroding in recent years, which is why this week's meeting on rebuilding trust has been so important.
Rebuilding trust with whom exactly? I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you finish. But here's the thing, as far as the public opinion is concerned, they don't trust you and they never will because they didn't elect you. And here's the thing, while we at it, Epstein didn't kill himself and there are probably people in this very forum who were clients of it.
Disarm and depopulate, we choose who you nominate. We pretend to tolerate and that's just how we operate.
At this pivotal moment, I see several priorities for the global agenda. We must continue to fight against the global pandemic. We must revitalize the global economy and accelerate its transition to net zero. We must preserve biodiversity by deploying nature-based solutions, and we must narrow the gap between the rich and the poor to achieve more sustainable global development. The biggest threat to a cohesive and sustainable world was security.
Mr. Schwab, I'm sorry, but the biggest threat to the world is the fake extreme news media. And the second biggest threat to the world is this very organization, the World Economic Forum, which is the Communist Party that was not elected by the people. And that's why I keep telling y'all should go fuck yourself.
The pandemic has radically changed the world as we know it. And the actions we take today as we work to recover will define our generation.
Now is the time to think what history would say about this crisis.
2020 has been challenging on a lot of levels, as economic, environmental and societal frailties have been laid bare. But it's also proved that when we need to, we can act rapidly and restructure our lives.
Recovery from the pandemic is an opportunity. We can see rays of hope in the form of a vaccine, but there is no vaccine for the planet. Nature needs a bailout.
You don't want to go back to the status quo that you had before simply because it was the status quo that got us here.
With everything falling apart, we can reshape the world in ways we couldn't before. Ways that better address so many of the challenges we face. And that's why so many are calling for a great reset. A great reset? That sounds more like buzzword bingo masking some nefarious plan for world domination. Hands up, this kind of slogan hasn't gone down well. But all we really want to say is that we all have an opportunity to build a better world. And it's not surprising that people who've been disenfranchised by a broken system and pushed even further by the pandemic will suspect global leaders of conspiracy. But the world's not that simple. Every one of us has differing priorities, values, and ideas. That's part of why solutions are so hard to come by, and why we all need to be involved in the decision-making. Because whether it's politicians, CEOs, academics, activists, or you, we're all about getting people together, even those you may not like, to sit down at the table and develop solutions that work for all of us. But
we need enormous trust between the private sector and the public sector for this to actually work. That trust is hard to come by.
it's time for people to work together, listen to each other, and build this trust, so we can move towards a better world. And we really need one. Because while the pandemic affects us all, it's clear it affects some more than others.
The first people who are hit are the people at the front, those who are vulnerable. It is those on the front line who take it first, and that is simply unacceptable.
See, at the start of 2020, 1% of the world's population owned 44% of the wealth. And since the start of the pandemic, billionaires have increased theirs by more than 25%, whilst 150 million people fell back into extreme poverty. And with climate change set to dwarf the damage caused by the pandemic, the message from 2020 should be abundantly clear.
Capitalism, as we know it, is dead. This obsession that we have had with maximizing profits for shareholders alone has led to incredible inequality and a planetary emergency.
But no one can do this alone, and top-down approaches won't get us anywhere, because everything we've learned in our work has shown us that diverse voices lead to better results. And it's for these reasons that the forum talks about something called stakeholder capitalism, which would shift businesses away from just profit. Because
if we want to change where the focus of our recovery will go, then we need a new dashboard for the new economy. And that needs to encompass people, planet, prosperity, and institutions.
Giving people a real stake in the economy and putting well-being before growth. And that's all about getting the right people in the right place at the right time.
We must rebuild our relationship with nature for the survival of the peoples and our planet.
We have a window of time which is closing, and we need everybody who cares to get together and find solutions now.
It's the people who have great ideas and who share them with others. They're the ones who are shaping the future. So if you want to be a part of the change, then tune in, turn on, and get involved. Follow the Davos agenda, right here, online, on YouTube.
Can you imagine that in 10 years when we are sitting here, we have an implant in our brains, and I can immediately feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers. Is it imaginable?
I think that is imaginable. I think I think you can imagine that. You can imagine, well, you're going to be sort of transplanted into the internet, so to speak, to live forever in a digital realm. You can imagine that you just in your biological incarnation are going to live to be some very long age.
I don't know how it will play out in November, but what we know is that we will end up with many more unemployed, and particularly also people in the grey economy, which are not counted for, who lose their jobs. So we will see definitively a lot of anger already now, but probably increased by the end of the year, because this crisis will be with us until we really have found a remedy. So we have to prepare for a more angry world, and how to prepare? It means to take the necessary action to create a fairer world, to see that we provide everybody with decent access to the health system, that we make sure that those people who are really left behind, and I'm not speaking only on national levels, I'm speaking also internationally. If I see now the tragedy in some of the emerging countries like South Africa, like some countries in East Asia, I think it's all, I don't have too many remedies. The remedies have to be discussed through dialogue, by the stakeholders of our global system. But I just see the need for such a dialogue, and I see the need for action. I see the need for a great reset.
To what extent would a reset be brought about by a change in the White House, the election of Joe Biden, for instance?
I don't know. We shouldn't speculate about the outcome of the election. We will see beginning of November, and then we can, in any case, we can, and the World Economic Forum is very open and as an open platform to integrate everybody who is willing to address those issues in a spirit, which means to exercise here true global citizenship.
I want to just pick up on some of the economic projections. In your book, you tackle what the future may look like. And at this stage, we're grappling with various letters of the alphabet, whether it's a V or a U or perhaps even a symbol, a tick shape. Can you just give us some clues about the growth down the track, what we can expect?
First, if we look at it at the national or global level, at the macroeconomic level, one of the things we address very much in the book and we are concerned is the increased debt level. We spend about 10 trillion worldwide to deal with the short-term negative effects of the pandemics. But we should be aware we are just increasing our debt situation. And we were already very much debt loaded before we went into the crisis. So how to get at the end out of this debt situation is still a big question mark. Second, we know that there's quite some impact on different industries. We know that certainly the health industry, the digital industry, will go out of this crisis strengthened. But we know that many industries which rely particularly on physical interaction will have difficulties to survive. Finally, I just would add, I think this is an opportunity again to find solutions which are beneficial for the next generation. So why not to tie government aid to the green economy which we have to create? Why not to make sure that we revolutionize, digitalize particularly our educational system? So we are here, when we talk about the Great Reset, to talk also about innovation. How can we do things differently from what we used to do? And if we speak about differently, it means also how can we do it to make sure that a majority of people are benefiting from it and not just a minority.
We started out Davos this year talking about the environment, Greta Thunberg versus Donald Trump. Certainly a lot of headlines crossing from the mountain. But last time round in the crisis, we saw people didn't care so much about the environment when we were talking about large-scale job losses. This time seems different. Are you surprised about how strong the sustainability theme has been right through the pandemic?
No, I would see even a chance to accelerate, let's say, our transition into a green economy. Because people probably recognize that we have to become more resilient. We have now the experience of one crisis. The environmental crisis, the climate crisis could be a much bigger one. So I see more awareness. But on the other hand, we have the big issue of unemployment, of low levels of employment. And I think we shouldn't see the two as contradictory objectives.
Do you know who Klaus Schwab's mentor was?
I do, but I forgot.
Henry Kissinger.
That's right.
Who was in the same meeting. This is a Harvard plot.
Well, his father was a Nazi.
I can't vet that for positive sure, but that's what I have heard.
What is this? So what is the truth of that? Let's find out. Who is Klaus Schwab's father? At least his father did something like
wasn't he the guy that was like
coordinated
bringing
with
like the nuclear
Nazis?
technology for the Nazis to South Africa or something like that?
Something crazy like that.
I mean, I know the story vaguely. I knew it at one point. But
Look, you can't help who your father is.
That's
right?
correct.
And if unfortunately, you get born, your dad's a Nazi.
I'm much less worried about Klaus being a Nazi than I am. Like, he has an interview he gave where he's in his office, and behind him, up on the bookshelf, is a bust of Lenin. How the hell did that get there? Like,
right.
Other than Jordan Peterson, who puts one of those up? Communists. And Jordan's studying them, and that's why he puts them up as a reminder. No shade at Jordan, obviously, but like Klaus has got some, big ambitions, I think. And his mentor was Kissinger.
Well, he's such a strange guy, the way he talks about it, too. It's so right out of a movie. Like, this cannot be real. No one is really, you will own nothing and you will be happy with that accent, and no one's freaking out.
And I appreciate the World Economic Forum providing me the opportunity to be on this stage and say, fuck you, Klaus Schwab, and fuck your New World Order. We, the people, were born free, we will stay free, and you and all of your globalist friends, including everyone in this room, can go fuck yourself.